everyone. Welcome to Physics Pathfinder. Today we shall discuss the next chapter in class 9 ICSE, that is motion in one dimension. Before we go for what is the meaning of motion in one dimension, we have already learnt in first chapter that in physics we deal with various physical quantities. Which are the physical quantities? For example, we are dealing with length, mass, temperature, force. Like this, various physical quantities are measured while we are studying physics. Now all these physical quantities have been classified into two. So physical quantities can be classified as scalars and vectors. Physical quantities can be classified as scalars and vectors. Now let us know what is a scalar and what is a vector. Now there are some physical quantities which have only magnitude. So a scalar is a physical quantity which has only magnitude. Now for example, mass. Mass, we write it as, for example, we take mass as 5 kg or 10 kg like that. Here I am indicating only the magnitude. 5 is the number and kg is the unit. We are just indicating the numerical value. Magnitude meaning is just a numerical value. There are many other physical quantities which have only magnitude. Another example you can take it as work done. Work done, we will write it as 10 joules or 100 joules like that. So here also what we are doing, we are indicating only magnitude. One more we can write distance. Distance, how do we mention? Distance means 3 meters or 10 meters like that. So such physical quantities which have only magnitude are called scalars. On the other hand, we have physical quantities which have both magnitude and direction. Now, there are some physical quantities which have both magnitude and direction. For example, force. Now there is an object, for example, I will apply force. Now here you can observe that I am indicating the force in some direction. So here I will write F is equal to say 5 Newton. What is the magnitude of the force I am applying? I am applying 5 Newton of force, and in which direction the force is applied, I am indicating the direction by using a arrow head. So force is an example for vector. Likewise, you take momentum. Momentum, as we go to further chapters, we will come to know that momentum is a product of mass and velocity. So this momentum is also a physical quantity which has both magnitude and direction. So basically you remember that all the physical quantities have been classified as scalars and vectors. What is a scalar? A physical quantity which has only magnitude. Here we are not talking about direction. But when we talk about vectors, we are indicating both magnitude and direction. So suppose I want to write a vector AB. I should indicate an arrowhead. Then it will tell that this is a vector. Force is equal to 5 newtons means I should indicate the arrowhead above this symbol. Then it indicates that a force is a vector quantity. So you remember about scalars and vectors. And one more thing you have to remember is here, these scalars can be easily added by arithmetic means. Suppose I have two scalars like 10 joules plus 3 joules. You can easily add it as 13 joules. So scalars can be easily added, but vectors cannot be easily added. You cannot carry out arithmetic operations on vectors easily, whereas you can carry out arithmetic operations on scalars. And scalars cannot be plotted in graph. In graph you have x-axis, y-axis. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, this is z-axis. It is very difficult to plot a scalar on a vector, whereas, it is very difficult to plot a scalar on the graph, whereas it is easy to plot a vector on a graph. So these are the some differences you should know about scalar and vector. Now, always when we talk about motion, we also remember or try to get into our mind about one more term, that is called rest. So this we have already learnt in our lower classes. Two terms we have come across already, which we have learnt in our lower classes. So our previous knowledge says that there are two states of a body. One is rest and another is motion. Now what is rest? Rest is if there is no change in the position of a body with respect to time and surroundings, then the body is at rest. Now what is motion? If there is a change in the position of a body with respect to time and surroundings, then the body is said to be in motion. So now this rest and motion, these two are said to be relative states of a body. Now what do you mean by relative state? Now if you want to tell a body is at rest or a body is in motion, then you have to compare the body with the surroundings. Then only you can tell whether the body is at rest or the body is moving. For example, you are sitting in a train and the train is moving. There are some co-passengers along with you. So this is you, A, sitting in a train, compartment of a train, and there are some co-passengers. The train is moving in the platform and there are some people standing in the platform. Now here, when you are sitting in the train and you observe at your co-passengers, then what you will observe? You observe that your co-passengers are at rest with respect to you, because they are also sitting along with you and you feel that they are at rest along with you. But when you observe through the window, then you can make out that the train is moving and you can see some people standing on the platform. So you are comparing yourself with the people standing on the platform. Then you can come to the inference that you are in motion and these people are at rest who are standing on the platform. Now what I am trying to do here is I am trying to compare you with the other people who are standing on the platform. So I am comparing here. That's why I tell rest and motion are relative, said to be relative. So for these people, what do they observe? They observe that the train is moving. And for you, what do you observe? You observe that these people are at rest and you are under motion. So always remember that both rest and motion are relative states of a body. Without comparing one with the other, you cannot merely tell whether the body is moving or at rest. So when you are moving in the train, imagine that the train is moving very smoothly on the rails. There is no jerky motion of the train head. All the windows and doors are closed in the train. When the train is running smoothly on the rails, then you will not make out whether the train is actually moving or not. But when you open the window and observe outside objects, then you will see that all the outside objects, whether it is trees, mountains, landforms, buildings, all these objects will be moving backwards. Do they actually move backwards? No, they will be at rest only. But what is happening here? You are moving in the train. You are in motion and you are comparing yourself with the objects which are outside. That's why always remember that these two states, that is rest and motion, are called relative states of a body. Without comparing one body with the other, you cannot tell whether the body is actually moving or not. So this is about scalars, vectors and rest and motion. Now, before we actually go for studying about motion in one dimension, we should also remember that we have two. One is motion in one dimension and the second one is motion in a plane. In this chapter, we are confining our study to only motion in one dimension. Suppose a ball is rolling on the ground. This is ground. The ball is rolling on the ground. Then the ball is said to have one-dimensional motion. So, if the ball is rolling on the ground, then you can just tell that the ball is moving along the x-axis. If you consider the three axes x, y, and z. So, this motion is called one-dimensional motion. Now, if I throw a ball, then what happens? If someone is throwing the ball, then this ball moves along xy plane. So the ball moves down. It will have a projectile motion. Projectile motion means whenever you throw an object, what happens? It reaches a certain height and again it comes back to the ground. So it will have a trajectory like this. The ball moves in this path and it is called projectile motion. So here we have to take the plane. Which plane you are taking? XY plane. So this is called motion in a plane. So now we should know what is the difference between motion in one dimension and motion in a plane. Motion in one dimension means it is moving in one direction only. It is called one-dimensional motion. If the body is moving across a plane, suppose I throw an object, then what happens? It moves in the xy plane. Then what it is called? It is called motion in a plane. But here we shall confine our study only to motion in one dimension. Now, there are some common terms which you should know before you start your study about motion in one dimension. What is the first term you should know? First term is distance travelled. Now what is distance travelled? Any object is travelling, a car is moving or you are walking, then you will tell that today I walked some 10 kilometers. Then you are telling how much distance you have travelled. If the car has travelled from Bangalore to Ballari, then we tell that the car has travelled nearly 300 kilometers. So, the actual distance travelled by a body. The actual distance travelled by a body is called distance travelled. When I say that I go for a morning walk, then I will also tell that I walk 5 kilometers a day. I walk kilometers a day. Now what do you mean by this? Per day I am walking 5 kilometers. Here you can observe that I am writing only the magnitude. I am not indicating any direction. I am not telling that I walk 5 kilometers towards north, south, east or west. Like that I am not specifying. I am just telling that I walked 5 kilometers a day. Now what is the total distance travelled by me in one day? It is 5 kilometers. So remember that distance travelled is nothing but the actual distance travelled by the body or the actual distance traversed by the body. Now distance travelled, now you can just try to reason out distance travelled whether it is a scalar or a vector. So you can easily make out that here I am not indicating any direction. So the physical quantity which has no direction but only magnitude is called a scalar. So distance travelled is a scalar quantity. Now distance travelled, what units you will use to measure distance travelled? Distance is nothing but length only. It is quite bigger length. So what is the SI unit for length? The SI unit will be meter. So this is about the distance travelled. Actual distance travelled by a body. Here we are not indicating the direction, we are specifying only the magnitude. The total distance travelled by an object is called distance travelled. The next term which you should know is displacement. Now let us take that you are travelling from Ballari to Chennai. I will take, this is Ballari, and this is Chennai. Now, what is your initial point? Bellary is starting point. So, I call it as initial position or initial point, starting point in common language. And what is your destination? Your destination is Chennai. This is called final position. Now, let us take that the distance between Bellary and Chennai is, say, some 800 kilometers. The distance between Bellary and Chennai is 800 kilometers. Now, there are so many ways of reaching Chennai. One thing what you can do is, you can take the shortest route to Chennai, which will measure only 800 kilometers. Or, you can take a different path. You may tell that, no, first I will go to some other place and then I will come back to Chennai. Say you want to go to Kolkata. From Bellary you want to go to Kolkata and again come back to Chennai. Or you may travel taking some other path also. You may go to some place in Kerala and again come back to Chennai. Now here you see that there are many ways of reaching Chennai. You can go in whichever way you want, but which is the shortest route? The shortest route is measuring 800 kilometers. But when you go via Kolkata, it will not be 800 kilometers, it will be other than 800 kilometers. Sometimes, say it is some 1500 kilometers. I will write it as 1500 kilometers and I will write it as, say, some 1100 kilometers. Now compare these distances. When you go through the shortest route, you are just traveling 800 kilometers. If you take these routes, then you are traveling more than 800 kilometers. But finally, where you are reaching Chennai. Once you reach Chennai, at what distance you are displaced from Bellary? You are displaced at a distance of 800 kilometers towards, what is the direction of Chennai from Bellary? It is towards the east. So you are displaced 800 kilometers east of Bellary. Now among all these distances, 800 kilometers is the least, and the least distance between final position and initial position is called a displacement. So least distance between final position and initial position is called a displacement. So even though you have travelled by other routes, finally you are at Chennai. From Bellary, at what distance you are there? You are at a distance of 800 kilometers from Bellary, and this is the shortest distance. So the shortest distance or the least distance between final position and initial position is called the displacement. Now, displacement here, am I indicating the direction when I am writing the displacement? Yes, I am writing the direction also. East I am indicating. So, displacement, now you can easily conclude that displacement is a vector, right? Displacement is a vector. Now, what will be the SI units for displacement? Displacement, again it is nothing but length only. So, the SI units will be meter. So, today let us stop here. Try to know about these two common terms which are used in motion in one dimension: distance travelled and displacement. There are some special cases in displacement which I will be discussing in the next video. Happy learning. Thank you.